17th, 1897, 5,000 people gathered around here where the Great Seattle Wheel is now to watch a boat that just arrived from Alaska. Why? It was unloading 2 tons of gold just mined from the Klondike region in Alaska. Now keep in mind, Seattle was just a small logging town at the time. Thousands of Seattleites packed their bags and headed north. The Klondike gold rush was on. If you wanted to travel through Canada to get to the Klondike, the Canadian government required you to have plenty of food, warm clothes, and supplies. Well, Seattle business people smelled an opportunity. They even hired a marketing specialist to tell the world that the gold was in Alaska, but the supplies were in Seattle. It worked. Over 100,000 people from all over the world came straight to Seattle for provisions before heading north to seek fortune. Did the miners get rich? Yeah, not many, but Seattle did. The gold rush turned Seattle from a small logging town to a major city almost overnight. And Seattle never looked back. That sound means it's time for a fun fact. One of the gold miners was a 17-year-old boy from Sweden. He didn't speak English, and he arrived in Seattle broke. He did well in the gold fields and returned to Seattle with $13,000. What did he do with his money? He opened a shoe store. His name was John W. Nordstrom. The flagship Nordstrom store is still in downtown Seattle.
This is a view of the Seattle skyline you can only get from the water. You'll see a short, older white building with a pyramid-shaped top. That's Smith Tower. It's only 38 stories, but from 1914 to 1938, it was the tallest building west of the Mississippi River. In fact, it was the tallest building in Seattle until the Space Needle was built in 1962. Located on the 35th floor of Smith Tower, you will find the Observatory Bar, a speakeasy-inspired bar with open-air views of the city and craft cocktails with a hint of Prohibition-era flair.
More down to earth is Coleman Dock, part of the Washington State Ferry System, the largest ferry operator in the U.S., with 23 ferries carrying over 24 million passengers in a typical year. The largest ferries can carry 2,500 passengers and over 200 cars.
Now, back on land, one building may stand out a bit. Do you see that tall, black, shiny building? That's Columbia Center, the tallest building in the state of Washington at 76 stories, 937 feet tall, and it was built in 1985.
Here's a Salish Sea Tours travel tip. The Columbia Center observation deck is on the 73rd floor. If you have a fear of heights, it's the perfect place to go to get terrified. You'll be 902 feet over downtown, and on a clear day, you can see for 100 miles in every direction. By the way, Smith Tower is located in the heart of historic Pioneer Square, the original downtown Seattle. It was a lot like old Western towns in the movies. You know, wooden buildings, wood sidewalks, even the water pipes were made of wood. On June 6, 1889, a carpenter was heating glue in a pot. He got distracted and walked away for a moment. And you probably already guessed where we're going with this. Yep, the Great Seattle Fire. In less than a day, the entire downtown of Seattle was burnt to the ground. Everything. So the city decided to rebuild the new downtown with brick and stone in the Romanesque Revival style. To this day, it's one of the largest collections of Romanesque Revival architecture in the country. And it was all finished just in time to sell food and supplies to the gold miners. Fun fact, the term Skid Row started in Pioneer Square. Loggers cut trees on the hilltop and skidded the logs down the street to a lumber mill. Not a great place to hang out. In time, other cities used the term to describe an undesirable part of town. If you ever dreamed of ending up on Skid Row,